Welcome. Let's look at how I set up my microphone through the assistance of VoiceMeeter Banana and IL Minihost Modular. Firstly, what have I downloaded to assist in this process? From VB Audio's website, I utilize their free virtual cable and VoiceMeeter Banana. Next, of course, I use Minihost Modular provided by ImageLine. Lastly, I use Reaper's free VSTs to use in Minihost Modular's hosted environment. Downloading Minihost requires logging into the forms, but this can be done through a Google account. I won't run through how to install them, they are self-explanatory and plenty of resources exist to assist this process. We will, however, look at some of the plugins provided by Reaper. I am unable to provide live examples of the signal chain we will be developing, as I require it for my microphone. However, the user interfaces will help overcome this. A quick demonstration shows what you are hearing is my processed audio, and this is my unprocessed audio. The biggest difference is the noise, for which some microphones can be unbearable. So the windows I have open are VoiceMeeter, Minihost Modular, which I will now refer to as VM and MM respectively, and the Windows sound. In the Windows sound, we will only be looking at a few of the devices in the list, namely Line, which is my microphone running through a Steinberg UR12 USB interface, VoiceMeeter Input, which you will notice is in the Playback tab despite being an input, and the VoiceMeeter VIO inputs. In the Recording tab, we will be utilizing Line, which is again my microphone, and VB cable, which is set to be the default device. These are all renamed by myself for clarity. The original device name is seen in grey underneath. Next, for VM, we have 3 hardware inputs. These are the physical devices connected, such as microphones, and 2 virtual inputs, such as system sounds or CSGO. Then we have the hardware outputs, labeled A1, 2, and 3, that we have set at a sample rate of 48,000 Hz and 512 buffer. The larger the buffer, the longer the delay, but too small a buffer will cause excessive processing load and audio defects such as popping or crackling, or even stop working entirely. We will ignore these 2 sections down here for the time being, as I do not use them in my signal chain. I'm not utilizing any audio processing provided by VM, seeing as it would already be running in the VSTs through Minihost Modular, also known as inserts, and I wanted them to all be in the one place. The other benefit is I can have VM running in the background and have this small window for MM to be able to monitor my signal or make minor alterations. The best way to demonstrate MM is to run through initial setup. Firstly, under Preferences, and Audio MIDI section, we set the device type to ASIO. Then we select our device to be virtual ASIO, with a sample rate matching that of the hardware outputs. Don't worry about anything below, as this is part of MIDI which is not used in the signal chain. Next, go to the Plugins tab, and press Scan and Verify. This will provide a list of all different VSTs that are installed on your computer, including your newly installed Reaper VSTs. You can now close Preferences and look at the UI. The piano down the bottom is redundant for us, as it is for MIDI, or Musical Instrument Digital Interface. On the left, we have a yellow marker, and this is our signal in. It needs to be connected to the right yellow marker. The blue markers are for MIDI signals, which we again do not need. This is why mine are all yellow lines. It does not matter how many plugins are in this screen, as long as eventually these 2 markers are connected. It is as simple as dragging lines between 2 points, or between dots. Hovering over the dots tells you what the input in reference to the VST is. But before getting into some of the plugins, let's look at my signal chain, meaning what are the things linked to for a continuous chain from the input to output. Each individual link of this metaphorical chain is called a patch. So if I change the patching of something, I am adjusting only one spot or one link in the signal chain at a time. So firstly, we bring my raw signal into VM in the first hardware slot. From here, we adjust my sound to be mono. If you're familiar with stereo headphones, having a left and right channel, Mono is the same channel for both. Seeing as the microphone is a singular item, creating one sound, it needs to be mono. From here it is sent to B1, which is our VoiceMeeter VIO. From here it is sent to A2, which is set to be the VB cable, listed here, which is set to be my default device. Between being sent to A2, inserts itself into the chain, thus the name insert, and adds the final link to the signal chain. In we start off with the first insert to reduce all noise. From here it runs into a gate, which is then parametric EQ'd and compressed before making its way back to A2 and our virtual cable. Let's take a look at some of my inserts to see what I have done to create the sound that I have. Firstly, coming straight out of the raw sound, we run it through a noise reducer. This is the refur, and it is set to be a precise mode with an accuracy of 4096. You set the mode to subtract, and when you check this box, sit in silence and it'll build based off the noise coming through the microphone. Uncheck the box when you are happy with the level, and all noise will be reduced. Over here you have a gain if you want to make it even louder than the original coming in volume. For me, I leave this at 0. Next we step into the gate, and on the left, similarly to the compressor, we have a threshold value. If the gate sits below this, no output sound will be released, but once it passes this, all sound can pass through. This has a couple of settings that can generally be left untouched for a pretty good sound. The names are rather self-explanatory, and you all only need to really focus on the attack, hold, and release. Stepping into the parametric equalizer, which you could also do through VoiceMeeter. This is a graph with frequency along the bottom and volume in decibels on the left. Basically, you add anchor points, and if I show the tabs, you can see that each point is set to have a frequency where it sits along the x-axis, a gain where it sits along the y-axis, and a bandwidth, or Q. This is how wide the curve sits. So this point, while down at this level, has a width that, if changed, makes it narrower or wider. Finally, we take this into a compressor, which, as we discussed, has a threshold value and a ratio. My ratio is set to 5.3 to 1, meaning every 5.5 roughly decibels, it only increases by 1 decibel. The knee size just makes it sound a little bit softer. It also has a release and attack, which can be left pretty standard. From here it goes out and into my VB cable to give me a nice sound. One note on the equalizer is the general rule is to cut narrow and boost wide. So if I was making these cuts, but then if I was to boost this, and you can hear the low end of my voice has increased, it's to do it over a wide area. But I'm happy with the EQ that I have come up with. In the plugins, there are many different ones to choose from. You can even insert another Minihost modular into your Minihost modular. There are some delays, and then the RIA.js, which you can load a whole bunch of scripts from analyzing audio to delay to simulating guitar amps and distortion, all the way through to octave shifts and pitch changing. There are some really awesome and powerful VSTs available, and these are only the free ones. When you start spending money, you can get some very amazing quality ones. Hopefully this video has been beneficial at either helping you set up your own microphone, or even just a new appreciation for good quality sound and what goes on behind the scenes. Thanks.